Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This time I'd like to call the Wednesday, January 20th, 2016 council meeting to order. It's approximately 6:01 p.m. This evening, the invocation will be by Pastor Travis Johnson of Life Point Church of Homestead, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilman John Burgess and the Police Explorers. Could you please stand?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today with grateful hearts and thankful, but also with a level of awareness for the world we live in. Father, we first of all approach you in obedience to your word, where you tell us that we are to pray for our leaders, that they are actually ministers, your ministers. And I pray that you would just bless our mayor, our council, our city manager, the leaders of this community. It is truly a wonderful community and a privilege to live and do life here. And as they lead, Lord, there are really substantial challenges. Lord, as our police go about their work, there are real challenges. And I think that there may be no greater reminder of that than today. Lord, as we deal with loss and real crisis in our own community, we just think about what's taken place this weekend and things that we've learned about just this week and even today. In Isles of Oasis, as a mother and the loss of a 4-month-old baby, and just all the tragedy and pain around that. Father, we look at our community, while there's so much beauty, there's also real pain, and we're reminded that even no matter how beautiful our streets are or how good our programs are here in the city, there is a condition within humanity that is asking for something greater, solutions. And Lord, we know that, while money and systems and policing and programs and organization certainly helps, nothing can help like a God who would be so moved on behalf of humanity that he would send his only son to move into our neighborhood. And Father, I pray that our community would know the real peace of God that comes in being reconciled back to you, Lord. Father, I pray that you would touch our hearts today, Father, for people that don't have peace, for people who are overloaded with anxiety or stress or difficulty, family situations, Father, financial crisis, whatever it is that our city holds, Lord, I pray that the God of peace that passes all understanding, Father, would minister the hearts of the people here in this community. Lord, we love you. We honor you today, and we ask that you would be in the middle of these proceedings, the business that goes on. Lord, I pray that you would work on behalf of the folks here in our community, and in all of our doing and all of our getting and all of our creating, our innovation, our business, and all of that. Lord, I pray that we would do really good. I pray we would do well. I pray that we would excel. I pray that we would be a forefront community in the United States, Lord, a place that people would aspire to be a part of. But in all of that, no matter what happens, Lord, I pray that we would get you. We love you and we bless you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to this great nation. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor Johnson, for the invocation, and Mr. Burgess for the pledge, and to the Explorers, thank you very much.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams? Here. Councilman Ross?
Here.
Councilman Burgess?
Here.
Councilman Shelley? Here. Councilman Maldonado?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Here.
Mayor Porter?
Here. Item 3 is public comments. At this time, anyone would like to make a public comment, you're welcome to come forward to the microphone.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Stephen McDuffie, 139 Southeast 36th Avenue. I wanted to say that it was really nice coming together for Martin Luther King parade and for the breakfast. I really do want to extend thanks to the council and to the community for all coming together to honor a great man that brought together all races. I also want to say thank you to my Vice Mayor for all the hard work she's been doing for us over at the Lanark in Napa and in the Vineyards community. Thank you very much, and look forward to the good work y'all are having the next year.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, everyone. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Jose Reyes. I was born and raised here in the city of Homestead. I graduated from Miami-Dade College with a bachelor's in electronics engineering. I'm currently an instructor at Miami-Dade. I've been teaching computer science for over a year now, and I'm soon to be an instructor for Harvard University. The reason I'm here is because me and 4 of my students decided to start an initiative. It's called CREATED, short for Creative Education, where we're going to start a program that will educate kids in modern technology by providing them with a stimulating and profound computer science program. How this started was that I started teaching a coding program at my son's elementary school after school, and I just noticed the ability of the kids to grasp the information at a very rapid rate, and really that's where I decided that Homestead probably needs a program like this. It won't require the children to know any typing. It's an exciting program, and I have a 2-year-old nephew, and I watch him very often on his mother's iPhone and watching YouTube videos of like little kids things, but knowing how dangerous the internet is and all the things and the power that he has in his hand, I realized that they need to be taught, how to be safe on the internet, not to put like public information that could hurt them or their families. And not only that, but with this program, we hope to help students be able to create their own technology instead of being consumers of technology. So we are starting already with a nonprofit on February 2nd, and I'm here and I'm saying we're eager to work with any other organization who has kids after school or who wants to introduce them to computer science. And mostly I'm here to let everyone here in Homestead know about the program, and that we'll be grateful for any support that you can provide. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes, for your proactiveness in helping to build a capacity for our students in the area of technology. If you would please be so kind to leave your information with our city clerk, I would love for the City of Homestead's Education Committee to partner with you to determine ways that we can support you in your efforts. Our next meeting is tomorrow, actually, at 5 o'clock at City Hall. If you would leave me your information, I'll definitely reach out to you so that we can assist you in your endeavors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Manager.
To echo the Vice Mayor, I think by the next COW, we'll be ready to discuss the potential for the new library site, and one of the components that we had in there was the potential for coding in the team room. So this is really the right time for this. So if you wouldn't mind, whenever you all get together, we'll have some staff there as well.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Next.
Good evening, councilmen and women. Andrina Foster, I'm back again. We missed 1 month, but we're back. A couple questions today. The first thing, we still have not received the answer within every month of us coming here. Body cams. When are we going to get body cams, or when are we going to try to attempt to get body cams on officers? That's the main thing, number one. What is the protocol? This is another question that I asked recently. What is the protocol to get Officer Anthony Green off the streets? Also, how can I request his file? There's a lot of things going on. We have a lot of crooked officers out here, and this is one of them. As well as there's another one, but we don't have that information. But as far as Officer Anthony Green, we need to find out what can we do to get this crooked officer off the force. 7 shootings, 4 murders. My brother, Edward Foster III, was the 4th one. Who will be next? Me, you, him, her, or maybe Chief Rowe's son? We don't know. We don't know because he's still on the streets. Another thing, last council meeting we came in, we asked, was Officer Green back on patrol? Chief Rowe stated, as of today, which was that date of the council meeting, he's still on the force. Question is he back on patrol? If he's not on patrol, did he become off patrol the date of that council meeting when we asked that question? We still haven't received answers. Every question that we asked, we have not received any answers. None of them. I was also informed by Alliance from an organization that's joined with us in regards to my brother's case, that there was a meeting with Chief Rowe, some of his staff members. And in that meeting, I mean, God is the only one that can judge a human being. No one else can. And in that meeting, Chief Rowe basically judged my brother and put Officer Green on a high pedestal, and also made a comment that he no longer wants to be an officer. I wouldn't be an officer if I shot 7 people and killed 4 of them. I wouldn't want to be an officer either. But as of today, we need answers. Body cams. What is the procedure to get his file? What is the procedure to get him off the force? If we have to, we will recall Chief Rowe's position, because at the moment, he's not doing anything also. We're not getting answers. We're not getting answers to the questions that can be answered. All we want is answers. We understand some answers cannot come. That's the reason why we are not asking the questions that we used to, because as you guys said, it's per the case. So give us the answers that we can get. Body cams, file, protocol on getting them off the streets. Give us some type of answers. That was my 3 minutes.
Okay.
Can I have some answers?
Mr. Manager, you want to answer?
Mayor, what we can do is we can record what happened tonight, and we'll do the best we can to answer. Certainly on the records request, we'll work with the city attorney's office and provide them with whatever records they're entitled to, and whatever other answers we can give them, we will certainly do that. And then we'll also leave, I'll leave my name and my telephone number so that if she has additional questions, she can feel free to call me.
Well,
Definitely.
We've, you know, the council has been very patient with this whole exercise. And we know it's a complicated issue, but at some point in time, this has got to stop happening in front of this council, okay? So to you, to the chief, I would like to not have to have these people come back and address us in this form or fashion anymore. So whatever it is.
I understand and I appreciate your concerns. I think there's a certain amount of reticence because of the lawsuit, and so, but that doesn't negate the fact that they're entitled to answers, and we will provide whatever we're able to do within the confines of the law.
Understand. Vice Mayor?
No, I was just going to echo those same sentiments. I don't think this should be playing out in this forum, and if there is some information that can be provided to them, I think it's very prudent for us to provide that information to them so that they don't have to continue to come in and speak in the public forum in this manner. So thank you so much for your assistance with that.
I appreciate it. One thing about it, our eyes are open, our ears are open. We're not going anywhere until we get our answers.
I understand. And
That's my 3 minutes. We have more people, I'm sorry.
Crystal Foster, Edward Foster III is also my brother who was executed by Officer Green. Let me just first say that everyone is misunderstanding his history. He has killed 4 people: Anthony Sinati, Jason Williams, 16-year-old Danny Cruz, and Edward Foster III. That's 4 people. So the media and everyone else can say 3, but it was actually 4 people. Public records, we are entitled to his records, and we would like his records, and we will continue to keep coming here. If you want the next council meeting, you can give us the answers. We're not going to stop coming, because the justice that we want is we want Officer Anthony Green off the streets, indicted. Once the truth comes out and it shows that he did, because everything's allegedly, it shows that he did murder my brother, I want him convicted of murder. Period. I don't just want him off the streets. I'm a little concerned because as the mayor, Mr. Porter, you see that we've been coming out here every month and not one time no one's addressed our questions and answers. And I don't understand how I had to go on YouTube and see how Officer Green was actually terrorizing a gentleman on camera in front of his home. If you YouTube Officer Green harassing in Homestead, you'll see him harassing this gentleman in Homestead. It's disturbing. This man killed my brother walking to the store, and it's devastating. And we're not gonna stop. We're not gonna stand for it. We're not gonna stop. We're gonna continue to come. I mean, this is a public announcement. We're allowed to come and give our opinions and whatever it is, but we want answers and we want the truth to come out. If you Google, everything's allegedly. Chief Rowe was investigating for public records, tampering public records. We don't want that to happen to my brother's case. We want the whole file for Officer Green. And as if you was in our shoes and you see all of these things that are negative that happen in Homestead Force, you'll understand why we feel the way we feel. Trust me, we're not going to stand for it. And honestly, Mayor, we will come here every council meeting. I appreciate you addressing it today, but I appreciate it. We will be here next month, and we will be high in numbers next month. And I hope and pray that you all give us the answers that we need. Because at the end of the day, my brother lost his life. His kids lost their mother and their father. And we're their voices. And we're going to continue to come until justice gets served.
Mr. Manager.
Mayor, yeah, I just want to also address, I think what I'm about to say, nobody should understand. Nobody should be happy with. I'm not happy with it. But unfortunately, there's certain state laws that confine us in terms of how to handle these types of cases. And so because of due process reasons, there is a procedure in place for agencies above us to handle it. So some of the silence shouldn't be construed as anything other than people trying to stay within the process. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be frustrated. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be grieving for their loved ones. And I would just suggest to you that whatever we can do legally to get you whatever answers you need, we certainly would do that, and you have my word for it. In terms of the officer, there's a process in place that we don't even handle because that's the way the law is structured to it. And so we're going to do the best we can to get you your answers. But in terms of why certain things take time, we ask ourselves the question all the time of why things take time that are out of our hands. And again, we're waiting just like you are.
Okay, I understand that, and I understand there's a lot of questions that you guys can't have, and that's out of respect, and we understand that because we don't want my brother's case to be, you know, we don't want it to come out. But what I'm saying is, when I spoke to Miami-Dade Homicide, when I spoke to Miami-Dade, who has the case, they stated that you guys can give us the answers why we asked the question last Homestead meeting. We said, why is Officer Green patrolling? Meaning, was he patrolling at the time after my brother died? Was he patrolling? That's the question we wanted to know. We didn't want to hear the answer. Officer Green was never off the force. He was reassigned. As of today, he's off the force. The question is, was Officer Green patrolling the streets when my brother was murdered. Because how do you have a community, a safe community for us citizens, taxpayers? You have us in a safe community, but you have an officer that is under investigation still patrolling the streets and harassing people on YouTube. It doesn't make sense to me.
I understand, and what I handed out a stack of my cards. I hope you'll pass them down. In addition to the questions that you've asked for tonight, if there's anything else that you want answered, feel free to email me or call me, or however you want to handle the communication. Come by and see me, whatever works for you. We'll inventory all your questions. You'll know which ones we're able to answer, which ones we're not. And then if somebody says we should have answered this one or that one, we'll have a conversation about that.
That's
too, to
cool.
see. Okay?
That's cool, but we're not going to stop until Officer Green is off the force. Period. He's not patrolling. We want him off the force. Period. Period.
Let me interject just a second. I know you have questions and concerns about the police department. You're dealing with the manager. He's not the police chief. He's not a police officer. Give this gentleman a chance. Give this gentleman a chance to work with you and give you the answers, and let him build his level of trust with you so that we can work through this issue. But he's the man in charge. And he's not the police chief, and so give him a chance, please, to let him explain everything.
I will do that.
I can promise you, I'll tell you the truth.
Yes.
Some of the answers, the truth may not be satisfying to you, but I'll tell you the truth, and then we'll take it from there.
As long as you respond back, that's fine.
Absolutely.
He will.
All we want is really the truth. So,
Absolutely.
like I said, whether it's devastating or not, we just want the truth. And the reason why we're actually mentioning, and that's the main focus about is he back on patrol, is because when we spoke to Homicide, Miami-Dade detectives, as well as FDLE, I've been in contact with everyone, they informed me Chief Rowe is the one. If Officer Green is back patrolling the streets, it's Chief Rowe's call to put him back on the streets. No one else's but Chief Rowe. So if indeed he is back on the streets since July 16th, it's because Chief Rowe said, hey, he's fine, let's put him back on the streets.
Right,
and in reality, that's putting him back on the streets. He's been harassing people. That's why some people don't want to be witnesses, because he's harassing them. We have a witness that's on YouTube, as she told you can Google. He's a crooked officer. He has to go.
Let's go with the success that we've got right now, okay? Let's move forward. The man is a man of his word.
Okay.
Give him a chance. Please meet with him at your earliest convenience, and see if you can get closer to closing this off and heal everybody, okay?
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Joseph.
Anyone? Yes, sir.
Ed was my big brother, and I'm just here for justice. You know, I want to know what's going on, basically. Just pretty much. It's a delicate situation. It's hard to deal with. You know, we shouldn't be judged because I have gold teeth. I shouldn't be judged because I have on a hoodie or a ski or a scully. I shouldn't be judged because I sag my pants or I listen to rap music. I shouldn't be judged by those things. I shouldn't be judged by the amount of tattoos that we have on our body. And I feel like he was judged, and that's what led up to the events. And it's hard to deal with. You know? My nieces and nephews got to deal with it. I got to deal with it. My mom has to deal with it. My sister's got to deal with it. And we just want help. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time? You're welcome to come forward.
Hello, my name is Dr. James Eric McDonough. I live at 32320 Southwest 199th Avenue. Thank you, Honorable Mayor Porter and Council, for the opportunity to speak here tonight. Two things I'd like to bring to your attention. First, after I had met with Chief Roll and Detective Aquino in February of 2014, they refused to allow me to file a complaint against Officer Aliana Merguido for Officer Merguido's filing of false criminal complaints and false stalking injunctions against me. Their reasoning for this was that since Merguido was acting off-duty as a private citizen and making the complaints, they could do nothing. I'm sure you can imagine my surprise when the city of Homestead changed course and decided to defend Officer Aliana Merguido and provide him with an attorney. Does it not seem incongruent to you, as it does to me, Honorable Mayor Porter, for the police department to refuse to allow someone to file a complaint citing the action was not an official act, but then for the city to defend the same officer and the officer to claim immunity for acting within his official capacity?
Go ahead.
Okay. As the city of Homestead, through its actions, appears to be ratifying Officer Merguido's behavior, will the city indemnify Officer Merguido when a verdict is entered against him? The next point I would like to address is I filed a records request for the documents relating to the decision of the city to defend Officer Merguido and the financial records for how much the city was paying to defend Merguido. The city was non-responsive to this request, citing attorney-client privilege. It appears not unsurprisingly that the city attorneys are completely clueless as to what attorney-client privilege actually is. The decision to defend Merguido would not have come from Merguido, the city attorney, or attorney Eric Stetton, who I see present here in the audience today, who was being paid by the city to represent Merguido. This decision would have likely come from Manager Gretzis or the city council. If such documents relating to this decision are patently not attorney-client privilege, I'm confused by these actions. Honorable Mayor Porter, you are aware that a knowing violation of the Sunshine Law, open government law, is a criminal offense, correct? Mm-hmm. Thank you once again for your uncooperation. You have a great evening.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. My name is Willie Wamble, 1111 Unit L, Adams Avenue, here in Homestead. Mr. Mayor, I would like to join the chorus of citizens who would like to see vehicles outfitted with cameras, as well as body cameras. The recorders can be used as a tool to substantiate the validity of police reports. This will protect our policemen from any false accusations that may be submitted by a disgruntled citizen. Furthermore, video cameras can be used as evidence to minimize liability of the city and its employees. Just as it is important to keep residents' taxes as low as possible, it is also important that we find ways to reduce the cost of litigation. Funds spent on litigation adds no tangible value to the city. It only benefits attorneys and the court system. Next item, Mr. Mayor, is that while I was out campaigning for the city council, there was a large number of people who said that the traffic problem, and I'm sure everyone's aware of it, is getting to be to the point to where they're ready to move out of the city because they moved into the city because it didn't have the traffic problems that other municipalities have. We have a street that I could possibly say and be correct in saying that it is the worst road in all of Dade County. That is Southwest 8th Street. Southwest 8th Street is a county-owned road. I understand that. And I conveyed that message to the people, that it is a county-owned road. However, Mr. Mayor, tax dollars are leaving the city of Homestead and going to the county. The county has, within the past 5 years, built a transportation system in the heart of Dade County, around the airport region. They have built a system, and we can't get a road. Mr. Mayor, we have to do something. We have to make sure that our tax dollars are being spent and being spent in the way in which the citizens of Homestead would like for them to be spent. We would like for the Southwest 8th Street to be widened, and we can't wait any longer. They've done more than enough work in the heart of the county, on the north end of the county. We're in the south end of the county. We need respect just as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Public comments? I'll close the public hearing. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Kim Hill from the southwest side of Homestead. I'm here to still discuss and get an answer from the last 3 months that I was here about the claim that was given out to those Hispanic Americans and still questioning the issue of body cameras. So I would like to continue that with the city attorney, with the city manager. I want to find out what was the claim, how much the claim was to, and tell the public, basically, and where do we stand on the issue of body cameras? Because the last time I was here, Mr. Mayor said that you all would discuss that in the CAL. Am I correct?
We will discuss it in the CAL. We haven't had that discussion yet.
Mayor, just for clarification, I don't understand the first question. Would you be able to clarify? I'm not sure
Well,
if I
the first question was, there were a group of officers that were dismissed from the Homestead Police Department for taking, for basically violating the rights of Hispanic Americans at this bar here in Homestead. And I would like to know, was there a claim? Did the city have to pay anything out to those particular people who were violated? That question is a question from the last 3 meetings that we've had. And I was told that you all would look it up and you would be able to bring it and present it to the public.
Well, what I can do is if you leave me your telephone number, I promise you I'll call you tomorrow with the answer.
What I would really like for you to be able to tell the public, because what I'm using that to be able to predicate for my advocacy for body cameras, for dash cams in the police cars and stuff. So with that, I would like for you to be able to tell the public, not just for me or whatever. See, in our community, how would I say, strong people don't need strong leaders. So they don't need me sitting up here. What they would like for you to be able to just have some transparency in this particular issue. And what I'm trying to get to at this particular time is to prevent frivolous lawsuits and to be able to help the police department out and to be able to help my community out. See, one of these things is, I mean, first and foremost, I come here as an African American. One thing that I love to the utmost, and I love black people. And I've found that, you know, the consequences of color has been tremendous on African Americans in this community. With this local shooting, we have an officer with 7 shootings. 7 shootings, you know, four fatalities, and still he was placed back on the police department in duty. That would only happen to African Americans. See, one thing about it, until you understand racism, all other things in America would just confuse you, point blank. And this is the only way this happens. If it would have been anyone else besides an African American, you'd have saw different procedures being taken, and it just haven't happened. And I shouldn't have to be up here for 3 meetings just to try to get a simple answer on what was the payout to those individuals who equal protection up under the law rights were violated.
I'm fairly sure the answer is 0, but I hate to give information out on the fly, so what I'll do is, let me just see. There is nobody, I'm told, so staff has confirmed that there's nobody, we didn't pay out any claims. I would like to just double check, but I would say the answer is no.
Let me just ask one last question. I'd like to ask the chief this. Chief Rowe, is there any time that you have allowed any police officers on your force who have failed the psychological test? Have you overridden that?
I'm quite sure you know the answer, and the answer is no.
Well, I would never ask a question that I don't know the answer to.
Well, I'm asking the question is no. And if you want to know that question, you could ask me anytime, any day. You know where I live. You've been in my house. You know everything about me. So you know how I operate. Any other question you want to ask me?
Well, basically, this is what I was trying to tell you, the consequences of color. The consequences of color is that when a black citizen comes down and make a request to a public servant that works for us, this is the kind of, how do I say, the condensation, the disdain, and the response to this. I am your employer. You work for me. I don't work for you. You know, so I would hope for you to answer my question with the respect a taxpaying citizen deserves. And I would hope the protection from you all as city council people, people that I elect, not to allow a public official to use that kind of tone. Now, yet and still, we're not going to personalize this. This is basically about a policy. This is about information to be able to protect the citizens. There's no personal indictment against Mr. Rowe, but there is an indictment against the chief of police of Homestead that leads, that leads this department in their behavior and their demeanor. There has to be some accountability. We cannot eliminate that based upon color. I'm here to use rational reasoning instead of racial reasoning. However, I can't be blind to the racial reasoning that's being applied to me.
Okay, so Mayor, I would just extend the same invitation. I will hand in my card, and they're more than free to call me or send me an email, however they'd like to ask questions, and we'll send them the answer. So everything's on the record and there's no confusion.
Same question, same case, same issue, same request.
Well, the thing is, at this particular time is, I'm an advocate for dash cams and body cameras. I've spoken to several professional individuals, and they tell me that this is a good way of protecting the equal rights of citizens. So, and basically, it's not even about the chief right now. It's about the people that's sitting on that dais that represents us, that could be able to put forth that issue. Just simple dash cams and body cameras to be able to make sure and protect us in one sense, because as you look around the nation, I don't see any white kids at a preponderance of getting mowed down by police. I see African Americans, and as an African American, I'm gonna stand up here and be an advocate. So I would hope that my elected officials would do so too, not only just for us, but just for everybody in this community. And basically what happened to those Hispanics at that bar, it was quite unbelievable. And I would hope that my city represents something more and better than that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, at this time, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additions, deletions, deferrals?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'd like to defer tab 9, 10, and 14 to the February 2nd, the February 17th meeting.
9, 10, and 14?
Yes. We have a motion, please.
Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Tab 1 is the consent agenda. I'd like to pull tab 2 and tab 3 for just a point of discussion. Is there a motion on the remaining, pulling tab 2 and tab 3? Tab 2 and tab 3 is the ATS contract and the RT Automotive.
So you're looking for a motion on the remainder?
On the remainder of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to move the consent agenda minus tab 2 and tab 3? Is there a second? All in favor? On tab 2, I just wanted to pull that just for a point of clarification. I read in the newspaper that the vote was, I think, 6-1, and I want the record to be reflect what I said at the agenda at the meeting was I voted against that. So, Madam Clerk, just for clarification, it's not going to change anything. Just want to put on the record that I voted no. Okay. So that would be Mr. Shelley and myself. I don't know, Mr. Roth, you?
Need me to say? As well, I believe I voted no as well on that item. So should the record reflect that? Thank you.
So we need a motion to move tab 2 with the corrections, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sorry. What paper was that?
It was a committee of the whole on the ATS.
No, the paper that you said, Ms.
The
Corbin.
newspaper.
Which one? Do you know which one?
The news leader, I think it was
news-
picked up by the Herald as well. So
Oh.
I just noticed that, and I think when I spoke to the clerk the following day, I think in the confusion of the conversation, she says sometimes she can't hear us because we can't speak in the mic. It was just an
Is
error.
that what the case is?
So, but soon we'll be in a new building with better microphones. So there's a motion and a second on tab 2. All in favor? Aye. Mr. Shelley, did you say something?
No, but now you've made it really confusing. So why don't we just re-vote on it like we voted that night and then we're done? Because if you make the corrections and then we vote on it, then it looks like we're voting for it again. It gets confusing again. So
No, what he's doing, he's clarifying for the record, what happened at that last meeting.
Correct, but now we're going to vote on the issue with the clarifications, but we're all going to end up voting affirmatively.
No.
No?
You can vote, he's pulled it off the consent
Yeah, no,
agenda,
no,
so anybody can vote in any manner that they wish.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
who made the motion and the second, please?
The Vice Mayor, I think, made the motion. I didn't, was it Elvis, did you make the second? Mr. Williams? I don't know.
This one to me.
Oh. So are we okay, Richard? We're
Yes,
clear?
sir, you just need to
Okay.
vote on the motion
Vote on the motion
to approve
to
the
approve
ATS contract.
ATS contract.
Right.
Right, that's my whole.
Okay, so roll call on voting for the ATS contract.
Perfect.
Roll call, Madam.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
No.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
No.
Thank you.
Tab 3, I just wanted to pull off, just to say to Mr. Riskin that I voted against it. I wanted to make sure that it gets voted, that I can show that I voted against it on the record here. But I also want to say that I hope that you're a man of your word and you do what you say you're going to do, and you build this project and you make us proud. As we go forward, we don't have a lot of discussion. I just want, just for the public to know that I didn't support your initiative, but I wish you the best and hope that you fulfill your promise that you brought forward. So, with that,
Motion to approve the item.
is there a motion to approve the item? Is there a second? Roll call, Madam Clerk, on the approval of tab 3.
Roth?
No.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
No.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
No. Thank you very
Motion
much. Appreciate everyone's consideration there.
Okay, James, you're up.
So we're going to be on tab 11, is that correct?
Yes, I think we need a moment for the land use group to get up. James? Somebody nudge him. James?
James.
I'm just sit back there so you can't hear him. He knows more than me.
We can't find you half the time. Mr. White, tab 11, sir.
Yes, please be advised, the following item on the agenda is quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon this item, please indicate the item number you would like to address when regarding this particular item. An opportunity for persons to speak on this item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on this item. Swearing in all testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to either be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the counsel to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2-591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications they've had concerning the agenda items. Hearing none, at this time, any persons who wish to speak on the following items, please raise your right hand to be sworn by the clerk.
Please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, please state your name, hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Tab 11 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, accepting a right-of-way deed conveying title for right-of-way purposes from Equitas Management Group, LLC, for property generally located at the southeast corner of US 1 and Maui Drive, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Manager, anything from staff? Joe? Cordino?
Yes, sir. This
Cordino?
is the second reading of this issue. If you'll remember, We had a previously approved site plan and special exception for a convenience store with pumps. We were lacking half of the right-of-way adjacent to the property. This is just them deeding over the right-of-way so we can have a whole right-of-way. And again, we're recommending approval.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Tab 11. I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Tracy Slavens. My address is 701 Brickell Avenue, Suite 3000, Miami, Florida. I'm here on behalf of Equitas Management Group, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. This is in accordance with our approved site plan that we brought before you last month. We're going to be dedicating Northeast Fifth Avenue and building out our half of the road so that you'll have a complete two-way street in front of our property.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council? This is a public hearing. Anyone from the public would like to speak for or against, you're welcome to at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Rod?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 13.
Thank you.
Tab 12, excuse me.
Yes, tab 12 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan, future land use map designation of an approximately 19.8 acre parcel from heavy commercial use HCU to medium density residential use MRU for property located west of Southwest 169th Avenue between Southwest 344th Street, Palm Drive, and Southwest 340th Street, as legally described in Exhibit A, authorizing transmittal, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mayor, if I could introduce the next item because it's a companion future land use map amendment so that you can discuss those and have a public hearing collectively.
And vote on them individually.
And vote on them.
Okay. Tab 13 then.
Tab 13 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of an approximately 34.3 acre parcel from light commercial use LCU to medium density residential use MRU for property located northwest of the corner of Southwest 167th Avenue, Southwest 344th Street, as legally described in Exhibit A, authorizing transmittal, providing for conflict, severability, and providing for an effective date. This is second and final reading.
Anything from staff, Mr. Cordino?
Yes, sir. We're going to be recommending approval of this. These are second readings, and they stem from work we did, land use change and zoning changes back in November. We haven't brought them back because we're waiting for a letter from the state and the county. We send the land use changes to those guys for their review and concurrence before we can come back. We've got their notifications back. They had a couple of comments. The most important one is that they had recommended that the project be revised in order to address the preservation of all the high-quality wetlands within the area of the amendment, and they issued a handful of comments to that extent. We believe we can satisfy that requirement as they move to a site planning process, and I believe that they're satisfied with that. So again, we're recommending approval.
Questions from council? Let me ask a question. Now, there's a wetland designation, and we talk about, you know, the maximum 10 units per acre. I think Mr. Burgess brought this up at the last meeting. Do they, in that wetland area, do they get to count the 10 units per acre and move it to the fringes of the project? Do they get to utilize that wetland as buildable property?
Let me see if I recall.
Mr. Burgess.
And I see the applicants back there, but I believe they proffered to hold it to a certain number, about 320 units total, a little bit lower, 300, somewhere in there? Lower than that, okay. So it's under 300 units for the total of 50 acres.
Well,
I don't know the exact number, but I know that they did proffer that at the last meeting, and the exact number I can't remember off the top of my head. 296,
I believe the number is 296, and in that calculation, they would be able to use the wetlands, that acreage in the calculation, but they did promise us they'd stick it at 296, which seemed acceptable.
Perfect. I just know that was a discussion, and I wasn't really clear on how it all, you know, unfolded. So at this time, I'll open up the public hearing. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Graham Penn, Burke, Howard, Ellen Fernandez, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, here on behalf of the applicants. We agree with Mr. Corradino's conclusion regarding the county's memorandum. We have no issue, obviously, dealing with the wetlands issue at the time of site plan, and he properly recounted that we have proffered a signed covenant limiting the overall density to 296. With that, I'm going to close. I'll be here for any questions you may have.
All right, sir. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wants to speak for or against, you're welcome to at this time. Mr. Burgess.
Mr. White, so we can address the concerns of the county and all that as we go through the site plan with these folks, that's correct?
That is correct. The county memorandum that we received today at 3:45, I believe, we've gone through it. The county indicates that that the proposed future land use map does not significantly impact county services or infrastructure. However, the amendments do have a significant impact with regards to county and state resources, i.e. the wetlands on the property. They go through, there's an extensive memorandum issued by the Department of Environmental Resources, Resource Management, with regards to potable water, sewer, but the significant comments all deal with the wetlands. And usually the wetland delineation, the wetland protection, that normally comes in at the time of site development. So as Mr. Corradino said, the way to treat that and to deal with that is at the time when the properties is, the development for the property is to come into play.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Okay, this is a public hearing on tab 12 and tab 13. I'll close the public hearing at this time. Any final comments or questions from council? Is there a motion on tab 12? Move it. Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Shelley?
No.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Williams? Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Is there a motion on tab 13?
Move it.
Second.
Move and second to get that, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess, motion?
Yes, I do.
Vice Mayor, second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Williams? Councilman Shelley?
No.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Tab 15.
An ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending Section 28201 Water and Sewer Deposits of Article 11 Deposits, amending Section 28218 Late Fee and Discontinuance of Service for Failure to Pay, and Section 28219 Water Connection Fee, Tampering Fee of Article 7 Billing, and amending Section 28254 Reconnect Charges, and amending Section 28255 Electric Deposits of Article 8 Electricity of Chapter 28 Utilities of the City Code, providing a uniform fee for reconnection of water and sewer services, providing for a waiver of utility account deposit requirements for honorably discharged members of the military, providing for severability conflicts, inclusion in the code, and an effective date. This
Mr.
is
Manager.
second reading and public hearing.
Mr. Manager, staff report on that.
Mayor, we have a memo attached, and we're hoping this will make things a little easier for our customers, and we'll see how it goes.
Can you explain that it's actually, you're reducing and simplifying just the whole
We can,
situation?
sure, we can do that. Catherine, you want to?
Just so that the public that's watching has a chance to know what we're talking about.
Mayor and Council, through the manager. The purpose of this amendment is to reduce the cost of the purpose of this amendment is to reduce the cost of reconnection fees. Traditionally, we had a tiered system where a customer paid for our electric, paid $25 for the first disconnection within a 6-month period, then $50, and then subsequently $100. What this does is reduce that burden on the customer. In addition to that, what we've done per the request by council last meeting was to include the fact that the reconnection fees will be included in the next month's bill, as opposed to being the customer having to pay that up front.
The east do different.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted the public to know this is really a beneficial change in their abilities if they're unfortunate to be turned off. So, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
sir.
In my understanding of this, when you sent us, I guess when I looked at the agenda in a PDF form online, I thought there was more than what we have in our packet. Is that, and I guess what my question is I know you make a comparison in your tier rate to other cities. If I can find it here. On page Exhibit 1, the reconnection fees comparison. Now, these cities, are there in retrospect, what are the size of these cities?
Some of them are similar size and some are larger.
Okay. And when you went through the process, what was your determination in the fee amount? Was it just you isolated from your research of other cities, or how was the process done to end up with these particular amounts of fees?
We looked at the fees from other cities, but we also looked at what it would cost the city to perform the reconnection, and that was the overriding factor.
So when there's a reconnection order, what do we pay how have you broken that down in order to get this? In other words, so you're saying what it would cost us. What does it cost the city to really reconnect the
It's the time for the serviceman to go out to that site, and it's the serviceman's time.
And what would you say that is?
Well as, basically, we pay a serviceman about $15 an hour.
All right, and what else?
And then, of course, it's the cost of the vehicle costs, insurance, and all those peripherals.
And how much is that?
That's where we came up with the $30. So it's the difference between those.
So it's $30. So every time there's a connection fee, it costs us,
On average, yes.
on average, $15 for the person. For that, how long does it take?
It depends on where they're coming from. If we say they're coming from the office, if they're close to the city, if they're close to the office, of course it's less. If they're far distance, it could cost more.
So it takes an hour to perhaps do it.
It depends. It could take between half an hour to an hour or more, depending on where that person is located, as well as the time of day.
Okay, so why not just have a flat fee of a second or third time? I know that is it a flat fee just across the board after
Yes,
the
it's
second time or third time?
What it was before is that you paid 25, then you paid 50, then you pay 100. Now it's $30 whether it's the first time, the second time, or the third time.
Okay. And if there's a reoccurrence after the third time, what other measures do we put in place? Do we require an additional deposit? Do we require anything additional after so many times?
No,
Or-
we don't require additional deposits. What we do is that persons who are having difficulty paying, we refer them to agencies to see if they can get assistance. And then, of course, there's the disconnection that the customer will remain off if they're unable to pay.
I know some companies, utility companies, if it persists to continue, then they ask for another deposit or another required deposit or what the average bill is. Have you all had conversations or thought about that process at all?
We do that. We do that when there's tampering. We do that when there's return checks. But we've traditionally, even though there's a provision for that, we generally don't do that for disconnection of service.
Okay, all right. And based on, if I'm applying for water service or electricity or water, you all do a hard credit check or a soft credit check? How do you all?
It's a soft credit check through an agency.
Okay. And based on, or do we have a lot of deposits based with some of our residents that you see then?
So we give customers several options. One, we do the soft credit check, and of course it's based on their credit worthiness, with the maximum, say for electricity, being 250. customers who, we offer customers the option of going on automatic payment. If if they accept that option, then they don't have to pay a deposit at all.
Oh, okay. And so, in the body of the ordinance is, when they pay a deposit, does it go on their first bill, or is it something they have to give at that time?
Right now, deposits are paid up front.
So it doesn't go on their first bill?
No, it doesn't.
And the deposits range from what?
It ranges from 0 if the credit is good, up to $250 for the electric.
And
the
then
water
that's for residential. What about commercial?
for commercials, it could go up as high as 2 times an average bill.
You say 2 times an average bill?
Yes.
And what
But
usually?
generally speaking, we don't go that high. Generally, we go as high as $1,000.
But is it based on what your office determines?
No, usually for commercial customers, it's based on the premise. If there were previous occupants of the premise, we look at that and kind of get a feel for that, especially if the business is similar. And if we're not able to do that, then we look at similar businesses to the one that is applying for service, and we'll consider their deposit based on those.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir, thank you. One question to the manager. As far as like an emergency call out, I know sometimes people, things happen, and this wouldn't pertain to an emergency call out, would it, or does it? Is there such a thing as an emergency call out?
There is an emergency call out, and the fee for that is $150. So this ordinance does not pertain to that, and that has to be paid up front.
And that's at the customer's direction.
Yes.
They can if they call Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, it could be a problem unless they pay for the emergency, because you have to call an employee out to do that.
Right. That's correct.
Okay.
Thank
you, Mr.
I'm
Wood.
sorry. Yes, I reset
Go
it.
right ahead.
But
Go ahead.
if my other colleagues hadn't, okay. And that's the line that, as the mayor was just speaking about, I'm trying to identify, when you call in a employee for emergency, turn on or however, how much does that really cost the city to do that? When looking at fees, I'm trying to understand, determine how do we get the numbers that we get? Is it something that, so could you explain that process to me as it relates to the emergency cutoff? Because I get a lot of questions and phone calls, even with tampering charges, or, somebody's tampered with the meter. And in essence, person said that they didn't, tamper with it, however, I don't know, or they're using, I would say, stealing other energy from another place right across the street from it, or they tamper with the box. So how do we know if that particular person or owner of the property or renter actually did that, based on what evidence that you all use? So there are 2 questions.
So the first one, to answer that, I'm not sure how those figures were arrived at, but I do know that a part of it is that when a serviceman is called out, he's automatically paid, I think it's 3 hours or 4 hours, 3 hours in terms of overtime. So that's part of the cost associated with that. Of course, additionally, it's going to the site, coming back. But what else is involved in that, I'm not quite sure.
Okay, is it possible, through the mayor and the city manager, to see with the reconnection charges for emergency, how do they, those, I don't know the last time that was looked at per se, but, are those numbers antiquated? Are they, do they need, apply now today in where we are, so if
we can send you we'll send you some information on how that is calculated, and then if somebody wants to address that, we'd be happy to look at it. There is a certain amount of deterrence also on those, because those become, if you charge $5, everybody would have an emergency too. So there's got to be a certain point where you don't really want people having emergencies if they can help it. Just keep that in mind.
I don't have it in front of me, but my recollection is that the collective bargaining agreement that we have with the IBEW has regular rates, and then there's certain minimums for, if you're called out from your house, even though it might only take a half an hour, you're paid for a certain number of hours.
I understand
We just don't
that.
know if that adds up to 150, so we'll...
Right, I don't know if that, it could be more. It could be 175. I don't know if, as a city...
It could be antiquated the other way,
It
too,
could
right?
be, right, exactly. So it could be that, because in those agreements, I'm pretty sure, since that time, there have been COLA raises, there have been 3% or whatever, the rate is, and we use that, matrix of system to, come up with the fee, then we could be on the losing side at the same time. So I'm just trying to,
Right.
research that to see the
Absolutely.
last time when it was looked at or to be addressed.
And my guess is also a part of that was a deterrence as well, because calling people out is, it's a
Right.
fairly disruptive thing in their
Exactly.
system, so
Exactly.
we'll get you that information.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing on tab 15. Anyone wanting to speak for or against, you're welcome to come at this time. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion? Moved by Mr.
This is
Roth.
the last reading on this item? Okay.
Last reading, yes, sir. Moved by Mr. Roth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Fairclough. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Maldonado? Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 16.
Tab 16 is a first reading of an ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the city code by amending Chapter 30 zoning, Article 1 definitions, to amend the definitions of hotel and motel, and to delete the definition of apartment hotel, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Mr. Cordino, anything?
Yes. Yes, sir. Quickly, we recommend approval of this. We are processing a development for a hotel, and we realized in the set of the approvals that our definition would have precluded the implementation at a hotel, and our definition is a bit antiquated. And essentially what we're trying to do is allow a kitchenette in a hotel room. And we really believe that a kitchenette is common in contemporary hotels, and we don't have an issue with it. I think that when the code was written, they were trying to protect against transients in hotels for extended periods of time. And without laundry facilities, we don't think that's an issue. So we're going to recommend, we've looked at it critically and crafted this definition and are recommending approval.
What is Landmark Hotel? The one on Flagler? That's kind of what I would think is an apartment hotel. That's what classification would that be?
I don't know. I would imagine apartment hotel. I don't see them building apartment hotels
Anymore?
There are things called as extended stays,
Right.
Hotels, but I don't know. I don't think they're negative within a community or would need any regulation against them. So.
Okay, so we do this, it doesn't affect them, they would, in essence...
No,
be
no, it does
grandfathered,
not.
whatever,
Doesn't affect,
they're there.
doesn't negatively affect them at all.
Okay. Mr. Burgess?
So in theory, the other two hotels that are here in town that have the facilities that we're okaying tonight were not built legally?
They weren't built to the code, correct.
So one of them just happened recently. How did that one slide through and this one's getting caught?
Evidently, we weren't looking at the definition of a hotel. It's not in the it's not in the specific zoning category for the uses. It's in a separate section within the zoning code. So when we go back and did this review, we realized that the definition would have precluded the implementation of this hotel. So we're making a change to it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, I guess my line of question is in the same area, Mr. Honorable Burgess, is that a value place has kitchenettes, if I'm not mistaken. I think back in 2009 or 8 is when that place was kind of built. But I remember touring. Which one, Mr. Burgess?
And the brand new one that's being built back behind the Medical Arts Building back.
Right, exactly. So, I guess I heard your answer, but could you give me a little bit more detail what you just provided, Mr. Burgess, as it relates to when they brought their plans in, or when they brought their site plan and everything, how, and I think the hotel, the one I'm talking about, you were not here, but this current one, what happened, as you said again, so I'm clear?
This hotel, well, we're looking at the hotel. We reviewed the definition of hotel during the process, found out that they precluded things like kitchenettes. And then at that point, we would have requested a code change or variance or something like that. We consulted with the applicant. We thought that, the common understanding of what a hotel is, in my mind and our staff's mind today, doesn't see a kitchenette as a negative thing. So in our conversations, we decided, why don't we just make this change? It'd be a positive change for the code. We can undertake it. And so that's what we decided to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's paying for this code change?
We're doing it as staff. We're the
This is
city.
so
The city
no-
initiated application, and we
So
felt
no applicants paying for this
no
process?
applicant is paying for this code change.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council right now? Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing on tab 16. Close the public hearing on tab 16. Any final comments? Is there a motion?
Move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Get that, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Roth? Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Tab 17.
Ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 28 Utilities, Article 3, Electricity, Division 2, Deposits, Rates, and Charges, Section 251, to establish a local historical landmark preservation, or LHLP, rate rider, providing for public purpose, severability, conflicts, and inclusion in the code. This is a first reading.
Mr. Manager.
Mayor, at the December 8th, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting, as the Historic Preservation Board liaison, Councilman Shelley brought forth the concept of an incentive program through discounted electrical rates to encourage home and business owners to designate their qualifying properties as historic local landmarks. It was noted that historical buildings consume between 15 to 50% more electricity than their more modern counterparts. After the discussion, the council provided staff direction to move forward on this item to amend the ordinance.
Mr. Williams.
So is this maybe this is to the sponsor of the ordinance. For this ordinance, your intentions are for those particular landmarks or historic preservation sites, or is it just quantified to the certain particular buildings within that, or is it a whole blanket of all?
It's for all. I think they're specifically defined. I know Von Knowles was here at the last time. She was able to specifically list, but I think there's 20 or 30 properties or so that are considered historic landmarks or have been designated as historic landmarks by the Historic Preservation Board. And so this would apply to those particular buildings, as well as any ones that get added in the future.
And so your suggestion or what you're proposing is that how much of that will be, is there a percentage per se, or is it just when you see?
You're talking about the specific rate itself, the establishment of the rate? That's something I'll let staff answer, because that's a specific question for staff.
Okay.
Yes. Mayor and Council, we looked at the rates, and we looked at the higher usage by these historic homes, and we tried to drop the rate approximately that same amount. And there were three rate classes that were impacted. There were the residential rate, the commercial non-demand rate, and then the demand rate. And overall, when we looked at a yearly basis or a monthly basis, it would drop these rates 24.2%.
Across the board?
They're actually all different.
Okay.
When you look at the residential, it actually drops 34.6%. The commercial drops 33%, and the industrial drops 20.8%. When you add those all up, the total is 24%.
I'm sorry, say that again? Give me those rates again?
The residential drops 34.6%.
It drops 34.6%.
Correct. The commercial drops 33.2%.
Uh-huh.
And the industrial drops 20.8%.
All right. And would it be automatic, or will they have to apply for this? The historic sites, is it automatically done, or how is it going forward? How will it work? What will be the implementation strategy? How are we going to do this? So that I'm clear, because I'm thinking about 10 sites I know of, that I know that are historic in my area. So I'm just trying to figure out how this is going to work. Is it?
Well, when we did the analysis of this, we had a total of 23 sites that have current electric accounts that are designated historical.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine going in, if this passed, that we would change the rates on those 23. And then anybody else that came in and had a home or a business designated as a historical building, we would apply that rate.
So there's a couple of other items I'd like to add, Councilman. The first one is, obviously, you have to apply for historic designation. You have to be designated, so that would be the first thing. Also, after you approve this, after second reading, there's still some process left with the Public Service Commission. So it'll take a little more time before this actually gets implemented.
Okay, and I'm just asking, and just for information purpose, have they had conversation with all of the sites, with the owners, or do we know?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are they aware that perhaps?
We've had no conversation with the owners.
Mr. Shelley, I'll yield to you.
I know that Yvonne Knowles, who's the chairman of the Historic Preservation Board, I know that they've spoken to some of the historic buildings owners to find out the favorability, and everyone's very favorable. Because again, the idea is twofold, is to encourage those, or not to punish those persons who happen to purchase or own or restore a historic building. We want to make sure that people still make use of these historic buildings, because if they don't, they'll just essentially go into ruins, and we'll lose our history here in the city of Homestead. So one is to make sure that those that currently operate or own a historic building aren't punished for owning that historic building. And then second, twofold, which Yvonne mentioned at the Committee of the Whole meeting, is that it also becomes an incentive for those persons who happen to own property that could be declared historic, and that the Historic Preservation Board would like to be declared historic. This is an incentive now to have them maybe weigh out the complications that can come with a historically designated building, as far as what you can do and can't do with it, how you can improve it and can't improve it. And so the secondary would be, maybe it will encourage some of these historic buildings that they want to save for history purposes to now come on board and designate themselves as historic to take advantage of this lower rate.
Okay. And I just asked because I don't think I was here at that conversation. I think I was absent. But a list of a list of those, I was trying to find within the car item, but I didn't quite see.
They had handed out the Historic Preservation book, the walking tour, which lists all the historic buildings within the city of Homestead. That was at the COW, I don't think. Yvonne Knowles brought that with her, and she's not here tonight to have that information. But it did list, I know that the staff has looked at it, it was 23, which includes both commercial and residential.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Anyone would like to speak for or against, you're welcome to. Close the public hearing at this time. Any final comments?
One more. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Mr. Williams?
If you can give me I don't know if you all could provide this at a time, but give me an example of one bill per se, and what that would do for that particular commercial or residential.
Would you like a
business.
residential, commercial, or a big industrial customer?
Anyone, it doesn't matter.
Okay, here's one residential customer.
Can do the best one, okay? Can you get to
Do
one
the
that looks
best.
really, really good?
Okay, their typical bill under the current charges is $227.79. With the new charges, if this passed, it would be $149.22, which is a reduction of 34.5%.
Yeah, I'm going historic tomorrow. Yeah, what I'm anticipating now is that every building will be to get that kind of decrease. I think it's phenomenal. I really do. I think that I've been through a process of helping a church become an historic site, and the challenges in which they perhaps could face, this will be a huge help and saving. That's why I actually have they talk with the, organizations that have these buildings of residence, because this will help them in a tremendous amount of way. And thank you, Councilman Shelley, for your foresight to even think of something of this sort. And I think this is an excellent piece of policy and legislation. Thank you.
Is there a motion on tab 17?
I move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 18.
Barrow Lake Mitigation Improvements, bid 201612.
Mr. Manager.
Mayor, staff recommends mayor and council authorize city manager to award bid 201612 Barrow Lake Mitigation Improvements to the Redland Company, Inc. in the amount of $596,000. The project will finalize the remaining permit requirements. The bid solicitation was sent to 463 vendors and 2 responded. The project is required by the South Florida Water Management District, permit dated December 1998. And Jerry, if you could just explain the issue of the local vendor preference and where we're at now with the price.
Yes, sir. Through the managers. We went out for bid on this particular project, and both bids came in above the budgeted price that the department had. Subsequently, we went back out to the vendors and requested if they could give us their best and final offer. Both vendors came back with their respective offers, and the non-local vendor was the lowest bidder. At that point, the local vendor, Redland, was within 15% of the lowest bid. So we went back to them according to code and requested if they would match or beat the lowest bid amount, which they did, at which point we went ahead and awarded them the solicitation.
Mr. Manager, quick question. I was reading through this, and it's supposed to commence on January 18th, and it's supposed to be finished on March 31st, this project. That's a fairly tight timeline, and the unfortunate thing is, it looks like you're planting things. There's a whole lot of water out there. Were we doing the right thing? Is there really that kind of a crunch in time on this question?
This project is basically, it's just earthwork that's being done out there. And the estimated time to do the work is about a month worth of time. So the March date that's listed on there, it's very adequate for this type of work.
And why is that March date there? That
date is a requirement from the district to meet that date.
Water management?
Yes.
Okay, so again, the point is it's being dictated to us.
That date is as part of the permit. Yes, it is.
Okay, all right. Mr. Maldonado?
Thank you. Staff, just specifically the lake, what lake are we talking about? This is a lake that we're digging up because there's a few by the sports complex, so is there one specific that?
This is the excavation lake that's south of Southwest 344th Street. It's adjacent to the parking area for the Homestead Speedway. It's the rectangular lake on the south side of Palm Avenue.
This is the one that we had to deal with years ago with the
Correct.
issues? Okay,
That is correct, yes.
just want to make sure.
Anything else, sir? Mr. Burgess?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Breyer, can you explain to me exactly why and what's being done now that, and why wasn't it done before if it was mandated by the Water Management District and exactly what? Because I'm looking through here and all I see is a bid for $596,000 and a few drawings with no.
Correct. There's a long history to this permit, and this last portion of the permit, which is the restoration of what they call a littoral area surrounding the lake, the idea is to return the area surrounding the lake to the conditions that it was in the surrounding area, to make it a wetland.
So
back
by
again,
doing
to
this,
make it a
do we
wetland.
limit ourselves to being able to ever go in and get the fill out of there that's owned
No,
by us?
No, and that's exactly why it took so long for us to get this moving forward. The district wanted us to make this littoral area right on the edge of the lake. As I explained to the district, the lake is only half excavated. There's still another half left. But in essence, this permit, they want to close out this permit so that we don't have to come back and restore certain areas. So what we're doing is we're restoring an area that's not adjacent to the lake, but further south from it, which will leave open the area of the original square footage of the lake that was supposed to be excavated, so that they can still have access to it and be able to excavate it at any point that we want to.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add to that, the restoration that has been done around this lake amounts to approximately 200 acres of restoration. This is 22 acres of that. It's the last 22 acres. We've done all the rest. The only portion that had been left not to do was around the lake, with the anticipation that we would excavate the lake in the future. So we came to an agreement with the district that we would just move the littoral area away from the lake so that as not to intervene with any additional excavation.
Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Tab 18, welcome to speak. Close the public hearing. Mr. Williams?
We got a, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before he comes, Mayor,
Mr. Williams, go ahead.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Public hearing.
Mr. McDuffie.
I'm more than able to wait for Councilman Williams to ask his question, if you want to proceed, and then I'll ask mine.
You're up. He said he's yielding to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to ask a question when it comes to the bidding process. When the local company versus the outside company, was there a specific time frame, and why, if there was a chance for the outside company to be given a chance to, say, go back and forth again?
Through the manager. When we apply the local vendor preference, the local vendor is notified through email, and they're given 5 days to respond, which is what we believe is ample time for them to go ahead and look at their numbers and see if they can go ahead and match that lowest number. Subsequently, once they do match that lowest number or beat it, we don't go back to the external vendor again and say, hey, listen, this guy's beating you now.
That's fine.
And go ahead, try, because we think it would defeat the purpose of trying to get the business to our local vendors.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. And can I request something that, and I know, so because when you go back to wait to 1980, which is it, 98, that there was perhaps could have been like a sheet that describes what has, happened and the steps of how we got to this point, because I don't know. So would you help me understand, what the issues are or were, and then for Mr. McDuff's question, is it, I think what the intent when the ordinance was done with this local vendor was to try and create more economic driven forces for our local persons with companies who can have the response time. And so even if it was, within that threshold, I think it was for us to know that those the dollar before it leaves Homestead will probably circulate at least 10 times if they live here before it goes outside of the city limits. And I think that was the truly intent to try to do that. But if you can briefly just, if you can provide it in the email, or if you're comfortable, just give me one skinny minute on how we got to this point as it relates to what Mr. Burgess has asked.
No problem, and I can do that. I think I can do that fairly quickly. This permit was pulled in 1998, and what it was a permit to excavate the site for fill material. The permit anticipated at that time that it would take 5 years for the excavation to take place. As we know through history, the lake, after half of it was excavated, the rest just sat dormant. So the city kept asking for extensions and extensions and extensions so that we wouldn't have to do the restoration until after the lake was completely excavated. Well, that has been going on since 1998, and the district, because we are so close to completing all the restoration around it, and there's only basically 20 acres left, they came to the conclusion that they would allow us to leave the area around the lake to remain as it is now and just do this restoration further away from the lake so that they can close out their permit and not have to deal with this anymore.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is it Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir.
I will close the public hearing at this time. Any final comments or questions? Is there a motion? I'll move it. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Shelley? Yes. Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado? Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Tab 19.
Mr. Mayor, would there be any objection to me reading these are three claims that we're settling that you've gone over with Mr. Stetton in executive session?
So you need
And
19, 20, and
Would there be an
21?
objection to me reading them all together and taking care of it that way?
19, 20, and 21. Any objections? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a settlement of all claims made by Paz Chavez and Edgar Sanchez, individually as parents and natural guardians of Stephanie M. Sanchez, a minor, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a settlement of all claims by Leonardo Alfaro, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, settlement of all claims by Ashley Johnson, individually, and Ashley Johnson as parent and legal guardian of Surya Nadine Young, and I apologize for these, Amia Bell, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. You can make a motion on all three at one time.
We can vote on all three together.
Yes.
I'll move it. Second it.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Stetton, I think everybody's clear on the whole conversation. We don't need to go through the whole discussion again. So unless anybody has any questions,
Well, anybody from the public?
I'm going to open up the public hearing. Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. I thank you, Mayor. I think in light of, well, I just need a clarification to the manager or to the attorney, is when we are in executive sessions, once this case is settled, those records become of what each of us have said, our personal opinion, becomes public record at that point, right?
Correct.
And so when we're discussing strategy and all of that and what we think should happen, through the court reporter or person that's there, that is not put in our packet. It has to be requested from who keeps those, who's the custodian of those records?
The clerk keeps those records. They are, of course, available to you because you're the council, but they're not, they're exempt from disclosure under the public records law until the conclusion of the litigation.
So I guess what I mean, so we've made a statement in one of those cases that, you know, we're trying to sell it in adversely for the city, and our comments and what our context of that is public record
After it's settled.
after this.
Yes. But, you know, somebody would have to, we don't put it into the agenda package because it's possible that you don't approve these settlements, and because the agenda package is all public record, We can't put it in the, because I've had situations where even though we discussed it, people change their minds and you don't approve the settlement, and I wouldn't want to have the transcript then to be public as we move forward and litigate the case.
No, I'm clear on that. I want to be clear about, because sometimes in the past, when we've done these settlement or talked about in the executive session, whether it's labor or whatever it is, words are taken out of context in how we feel about time frame of it or the amount of what we go for. So it's not necessarily always that we are not for it, but it can be construed because the information that we're given, we have to deliberate and discuss it. So I just want to know, how does that work as it relates to public records requests?
Whatever in those transcripts taken down by the court reporter, which is why we try to remind you at the beginning of each session that at the conclusion of the litigation becomes public. Whatever is said is public.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
By the way, just for clarity, in the labor executive sessions that you have with Brett Schneider on labor matters, there is no recording of those conversations, and there's then nothing to become public.
Wait a minute. So you're saying with labor matters
are treated separately under Chapter 447, and those
then lawsuits, right?
Those not the lawsuits. Yeah,
no, what I'm saying,
they're treated different than lawsuits. Yes, different provision of the law. This is under Chapter 119, where there's an exemption for pending litigation.
Right.
And then it becomes public afterwards. Labor, although some cities do record what happens in those labor sessions, I think we don't recommend it at all. So it's just a conversation, right, and there's no record to become public.
And let me tell you why I say that, because if we have a discussion dealing with labor, and it gets, person said, oh, you didn't vote for us to get our raise as employees. It makes it seem like we were not being, right, compassionate about the employees. And so I wanted to make, how to, so
there's no record of discussions or voting at the labor sessions, only the litigation session.
Okay, great. I'm glad to know that. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Now, Richard, first of all, I'll open up the public hearing on tab 19, 20, and 21. Anyone would like to speak? I'll close the public hearing. No, we need to do them all. Can we do them all at one or individually?
Make a motion to approve tabs 19, 20, and 21.
Okay. You made a motion already on 19, 20, and 21. Was there a second? Nelda seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Roth?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilman Shelley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Any business from the manager? Mr.
Mayor, staff and I are meeting again in Miami-Dade County tomorrow morning to deal with some of the details on the PTP funding. And like I mentioned before, at the next CAL, we should have 2 major projects to discuss with you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney, anything?
Yes, I just like to request an executive session on Bodie versus the city, which is a employee that we terminated that has made a claim for against the city.
Okay. All right, sir. And before we go into the reports from mayor and council, I'd like to the council members, earlier today, I know I asked the clerk to email out my attempt to work the council assignments out, or the request for the council assignments out, and we did some things with the liaisons positions that to try to request that the council focus outside what we're doing inside the city. We need to, my opinion is to try to create some connectivity with some of our outside entities. And as part of that, in restructuring some of the dollars, the intent was to give each council person who now may have a responsibility to go out of town for a particular liaisonship to something, maybe it's Enterprise Florida, maybe it's Beacon Council, maybe it's the League of Cities. But my request was to see if we could put some additional resource moving monies around inside the pot of money that we've been spending. And so my attempt was to say to give each council person a $5,000 allotment for additional travel or training or anything that would pertain to this possible new liaisonship. And in that, right now, at the $5,000 number, we're $5,000 outside of where we were last year. So there would be, we can do two things. We as a body can instruct the manager to take $5,000 out of contingency and roll this into this budget or into these dollars and keep it at $5,000, or we as a group can roll it back to $4,000. And in order to just kind of make round numbers, I've put forward to you as a request $5,000. Because I think that, you know, from the perspective of all of the dynamic that's going on in our town and how much our interaction is really stepping outside the roles of just day-to-day operational things, which the manager and his team do a great job. That was really my request. Doesn't mean that those are the only things that you can do, or the only things that you may come up with other ideas that don't mean that you don't have to be a liaison assigned by the mayor or anything. But the intentions were to try to get the council members, give the council members some resource so that they can step out and really, you know, make an effect outside the community. So that was my intent. So as we go through the discussion of this evening, just so that everybody has an idea to understand where I was trying to go and what we were trying, what was the intent and what we were trying to accomplish. So I guess there would be two questions. Number one, the appointments themselves, the requests themselves, and number two would be the question of the 5,000 pertaining to the 4,000. So with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Burgess all your reports, and then we can vote at this under my business. I just want to give you guys a layout of the concept of what we, you know, what was intended. Okay, Mr. Burgess.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to welcome the Golden Knights back. For anybody that's up at 7 o'clock in the morning, those guys are jumping out of the sky already. So there they are every morning. So I want to welcome them back to our community as they've made this their home for, I believe this is about the 5th year in a row now. And that's a big economic impact to have that group here every year. So it's an additional thing. Thank you. I'd like to bring up the discussion of lack of soccer fields in this community. As I traveled again this weekend to an away tournament, it's just astounds me that a community that has 800 youth or nearly 800 kids that signed up for AYSO alone, that doesn't include any other teams or any other leagues in the city, has no soccer fields with lights or any real truly dedicated soccer fields within its community. Yet we have all kinds of baseball fields at 4 different parks, maybe 5 parks in the community. And I think it's time that this council and this city and its parks department and its people take a true look and maybe take some of the fields that are out there at the baseball stadium and dedicate those to soccer. I know that there's a master plan when the police department leaves, but that's 2 more years down the road. And these kids are out there running around on fields, baseball fields, that aren't made for what they're doing. And I think for a minimal amount of money, that we have an ability to convert some of those fields out there that are used mostly for a softball league. I'm not sure how many months out of the year Mr. Maytan can answer those questions for us. And I asked him to also find out what it would cost to convert some of those, and I think he's in the process of doing that. But I think it's time. We're talking about putting down AstroTurf or artificial turf at the Harris Field, but I think it's also time that we look at dedicating some real soccer fields for the use of this community. There's a tremendous amount of kids. I would have to say 2 times as many kids that play soccer as do baseball. And we don't have one field that's truly dedicated for them to go to. And I think as a community of nearly 70,000 people with the amount of park space that we have, that's an injustice for those kids. So I would like for everybody to think about that. Maybe Mr. Maytan can bring us back some numbers through staff next time, or maybe he's prepared to answer some of the questions. And I know that I did discuss it with him, but I think that we truly need to look at what we have here and how we're coming up short on the soccer fields for the use of this community. So that's one thing, and if anybody would like to comment on it, if the mayor will allow comments, a little bit of discussion here, I'd appreciate it. If not, that's fine. We can move on and bring it back up at another time.
It's up to you, Mr. Burgess. I mean, I think it's definitely something we should talk about. I mean, with regards to just the sports complex where the police department are, their temporary, there's acres and acres of unused, properties out there that even on a temporary basis, we could probably convert those rather quickly.
Well, the important thing is that to give them some light so they can practice in the evening. And that, I mean, I know we have quote-unquote soccer fields over at Mayor Roscoe Warren Park, but there's no lights. And then, too, on weekends, when the AYSO was there was inadequate parking for all the teams and the parents and everybody that would show up. We're over at the baseball stadium, at the sports complex. There's adequate parking. There's lots of fields, some that are used, some that aren't used year-round or whatever. And maybe Mr. Maytan can give us just a quick synopsis of what he's been able to dig up, as I did call him the other day and ask him about this.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. When I received the call, I know that soccer has been a big issue, and we all know that Roscoe Warren has 4 fields, but we don't have lights. We did our study. It's $1.4 million to install lighting there. AYSO does have, the last registration they did with us was 492 kids. The softball facility does be used by Keysgate School for their softball team. We have Men's Church League, which is a co-ed, which is over 200 players, and then we have tournaments there and other. I guess the discussion would be, if we do something at the sports complex, are we going to do, the answer would be, do you want to do all 4 fields? Then we don't have softball or baseball fields out there at the stadium without lights. Or do you want to spend a lot of money on converting fields when a year to 2 years, when we bring this discussion back up, what we're going to do with the stadium, and you spent maybe $1 million in redoing soccer fields, and then we're going to tear it up? So those are kinds of questions we have to ask. But yes, we do agree they shouldn't be playing in baseball fields. They should be playing in soccer fields. The city does have 6 soccer fields in their parks department. 4 of them does not have lights. 2 of them do, which is at Harris Field, which is also shared by Dick Conley football field. So, we do have, 2 other fields with lights. But I know AOISO has been dreaming with, having their soccer fields with lighting, and I know our vision was at Roscoe Warren to have lights one day. So that's where we're at. So I guess we're going to have to bring it back a discussion. Do we want to turn the softball complex all soccer? And we just tell,
well, that's not my, with 4 fields out there, and right. One of those fields, if you converted one field into soccer fields, the youth team, you could probably get 3 or 4 youth fields out of one softball field. So if we were able to take 2 of those to make it even or whatever, you would have 6 youth fields that could be used, because there's only 1 or 2 that the AYSO, most of the kids play on smaller fields.
Correct.
I would think that you could probably get 4 of their fields of the U10, U12 size, 3 to 4 of them on one field alone. So I'm not asking to take all the fields up.
Okay.
I'm just asking for some middle ground. Perhaps we can look at building some middle ground there so that these kids have somewhere to go play soccer on a decent field, and they're not tromping through the mud of an infield to get out there to it, and they're not running through potholes when they're out there, unfortunately. But and that's all I'm asking. And I know it's a tough thing, because in a couple of years the park's going to be there. But these people have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and as we grow, the leagues grow, and it's kind of discouraging to go out there and see what our poor kids play on, and then you travel around to other places and see. And some of the communities that we travel to aren't as rich as Homestead, and I don't consider Homestead a rich community by most means. So it's but they do they cater to what they need to do, and I think it's time that we take a serious look at it and see if we can at least come up with some temporary stuff, perhaps filling in one of the infields or 2 of the infields when it's time, and leaving 2 of the fields, because we don't want to take away from anybody. If there's that many people playing softball, they're enjoying it, and that's a great thing for them to go to. So we don't want to take away from anybody, but we want to try to enhance what we have and maybe be a little fairer with it, in my eyes.
So we're working on the pricing now. So once I get the pricing for how much it would cost to do one field, we can just how many fields you want to do, that'll give us our total. Like you said, Councilman, is maybe we just do 2 of them out of the 4. But the lighting situation there will be fine, so we don't have to worry about the lighting situation.
Right. And that's my point. You know, if we can get out of there at a minimal cost, we've got soccer fields and we're there, and then the lights are there, and then in 2 years or whenever the police department gets moved, 18 months, whatever the number happens to be.
Correct.
And we get somebody out there, and then perhaps, you know, when their master plan or our master plan kicks in.
Correct.
We can make improvements all around or do whatever's necessary at that time. But I think there's a temporary solution that we should try to look at and see what we can do.
And I guess the only clarification I would need from Mayor and Council is that, do we just want to do a temporary soccer fields with keep the grass that we have there now and just do the infield? Or do you want a full soccer field with Bermuda grass?
You'd probably have to excavate some of the dirt off of the infields, correct? Because they seem to be higher than the outfields.
Correct.
But or you could maybe even take it and level it out to take it out to the outfields to make everything level. So
Just to clarify his question, though, I think what he's asking is, do you want the pricing for temporary fields, or are you looking for new fields? Because those are 2 different things.
What's the difference between temporary grass and real grass that's going to grow?
Well,
the thing is, we're going to, if we put temporary grass, one, the softball complex does not have no irrigation. So if we put new grass in there, we have to irrigate, so we're going to have to put irrigation in. They never, when they designed the softball facility complex, they never put irrigation in the fields. You also have coral rock coming through, which you can probably see some of it, which would have to be grinded down and then redone. So to me, you know, if you're going to make soccer fields, you know, you can go with the Bahia grass or Bermuda grass, and then you're going to have to put irrigation in.
Maybe one thing we can do is give you prices for both
Right. I mean,
methods.
that's what I, you know, bring us our options, I think.
We've got a couple
would be
questions. We've got a couple questions here too. So,
Sure, good.
if you, is that okay?
Fine, yeah.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, sir. Sorry. Miami-Dade County has about, I think, 34, 35 incorporated cities. We're the 5th largest city in Miami-Dade County. And I say that to say that if you've got the city of Miami has 400,000 people, city of Hialeah has about 200 and some thousand. Then you have Miami Gardens that has about 100 and some thousand. And then Miami Beach that has about 100 and some thousand. Then the city of Homestead with 65 or 66. I agree with you, Mr. Burgess. There's absolutely no reason why we should not, with the culture and diversity that we have within this city, that we can't get or make it a truly investment within that, in that area to bring that particular quality of life to our residents. And it may be a cost factor, and I think that has been perhaps the hindrance of the priorities. And I think we all know that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And so I think I support what you're projecting and putting out, because there's a piece on Lucy Street, a field that the county owned that leased to the city, Tatum Park. And it's just an open field. And I thought years ago when I was in 2009 that could be some kind of, so soccer field or some kind of park that could address that issue. Would you be susceptible to, is it just one location, or would you want to
ideally, we would have different areas around, but for league play, you almost have to kind of have a centralized
right, the central
place,
part of it, but I'm saying
because
for
they
practice.
have their equipment and all that, is their goals. And that was one of the problems that they ran into trying to use both Roscoe Warren and the baseball field there back in the day, was that they only had one container of equipment. So if they went down to one field, they didn't have their equipment, or if, or vice versa. If they were up there, they didn't have the lights. So they ran into a situation where, so ideally I think it would be best, and Dennis could tell us, I don't know where all the leagues play, or what, I mean, I think the Y plays over there also some, and.
So it will
The
be
Y-
it will really be the lights it's used, and then
Well,
since
because the
park,
children,
since
yeah,
the,
because
the stadium has the lights already.
Right, the
it would just
children
really
practice
be
at night during the week, and then they play their games generally on the weekend.
at the same facility.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I think, I guess when they bring back the cost of
Yeah.
it, I think that can be, and then I guess the other issue is that we probably have to look at would probably be a policy while you're, thinking about it, is will it be something that we have with the football or baseball league? Will it be one league that will quantify all of the who can play on it, times, who will be responsible for it, with the leagues that we have with other sports?
Yeah, well,
Is
the
it-
only, correct me if I'm wrong, only softball leagues play out there at the stadium at this particular time. There's no baseball leagues that are playing there, are there?
No, it's YMCA softball leagues. You have Keysgate softball leagues,
Right.
the school. You also have the men's softball co-ed church league, and then you have tournaments that we have some once in a while. Then you also have tournament teams that rent it to
But there's
regional practice.
no little league teams or organized youth baseball that plays. I mean, they may rent the fields for me
Yes.
because I see them out there
Yes.
on several times, but there's no particular league that plays there.
We have,
Has there-
no, not a typical league, but we have Mr. Roca, which is big in South Dade area, who has a tournament every December and July, which utilize Harrisfield, JD Red, and the sports complex. That's how big his tournaments are.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Roth?
Thanks, John, for bringing this up, because this was a topic during the campaign season as well. The portion at the sports complex, would that be a permanent location, or is it temporary till we find a permanent location with lighting?
Well, I guess it would depend on what happens out there in 2 years. So, quote unquote, for the time being, it would be a temporary solution and a temporary home for them. But AYSO has been there for how many years, Dennis?
As long as I've been here, and it's been 28 years.
As long as I've been
here.
living here, I can remember seeing the
They've
lights
been
on
here.
out there. And those kids have been for 20 years, 17 years, whatever the number is that Tim Norton's been around, they've been playing on the outfields.
Right, right.
And parking lots or wherever they can get.
Right, so I think we should explore the temporary aspect now to solve the problem, because I know there is a big problem for lights especially, and then look for a permanent solution so that in 2 years, if we have to take that away, we've been working on a program so that we will continue to be able to provide that lighted service for them as well.
Well, obviously, one lighting solution would be to somehow find the 1.5 or 6 million, whatever it is, for Roscoe Warren, which would be a help.
Right.
Those fields are there, and with lights, they would be a big improvement and a big being able to be used, all the time. So that would be that's one permanent solution that we can work towards eventually. I thought the cheaper solution and maybe the quicker solution would be, to look at the use of the fields out there at
It's a great
the
idea.
stadium.
Great
So
idea.
Perhaps we can get that to us and, the next cow or whenever, some numbers to us, so.
We can bring it up once we get that thing, and I can give you both options. But I think Roscoe Warren was designed to handle the AYSO. If you look at the plans when it first came out, because they even had in the very corner, had a storage bin for them, and then, of course, LightsNet. I think the future home was for AYSO was Roscoe Warren. But then, of course, we didn't get all the money that we need in funding, so that's where we were short on the lighting. Because we just finished our brand-new sidewalk around the soccer fields with the exercise equipment and everything. So it's coming together except the lighting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have
Mr. Maldonado?
Thank you. Just kind of, and Dennis, we've talked about this many years ago where, I came to Dennis and said, I don't understand how we have, dedicated football fields, dedicated baseball fields, and yet soccer being, one of the oldest sports here in Homestead, and we have no dedicated place. And so I know that we had a plan, and Mr. Manager, I don't know, at one point, do we start having that conversation? I know it's something that we're going to work on. Do you know, you got an ETA timeframe on?
We have proposals in from consultants, and I think we're, Dennis?
We will be, since we were kind of on other
The same.
projects, we'll be contacting them probably this week and next week to set up meetings to meet them, and then bring it to the council.
So at some point, we'll have a consultant selected, we'll bring it to you with a potential scope. If you're satisfied with that, we'll let the contract, they'll start their work, and the ultimate goal here is for them to kind of give you some options on what to do with the complex moving forward, and that would be the scope generally.
And, you know, some of the conversation we had about that was that, you know, we would hope that there would be some land dedicated to finally permanent soccer fields, and so, you know, so in our consideration of that, just know that that's been, you know, obviously an issue that we've been talking about. So I think we're all on the same page and with you, Councilman Burgess, in the sense of finally providing, you know, the soccer players of this community a permanent place where they could, you know, have their tournaments. I visited a few months ago over off of in Kendall, and I think it's 127th Avenue. There is it's called Mammy Soccer Park or something like that. You have to go by there and see this park. It is totally dedicated to soccer. We're talking about from full-size tournament fields, and they start coming down in size to smaller teenagers, and they even have it to where they have the little, you know, 5-year-olds in these little padded cages, and they're having soccer tournaments in there. And every time I go by there, I got to tell you, it is packed. There's buses there from out of towns being held tournaments. It's artificial turf throughout. So, you know, the county did something major on that. So I'm envious of that park. And so,
Do you mind if I throw just a little cold
Go for
water?
it. There
A
you
little
go.
cold
I was
water.
trying to egg
Just
someone
bear
on.
in
There
mind
it
that
is.
whatever we do with that complex,
the
it's a
money?
big parcel, and it'll be very expensive to maintain. So I just want to keep things in perspective. Let the consultants do a plan, get you some cost estimates for the long term, see if you're interested in some sort of a public-private venture. But if you start thinking about, geez, that's going to be a giant city park, just keep in mind, we're talking about high dollars, and every budget season I hear we want more police and we want more this and that. I just say, a little cold water here I thought was a little appropriate.
Thank you.
No,
But,
and that is fully understood.
And the other point too is that's in the crash zone at the Air Force Base, so we always need to be aware of the fact that we're going to have to address that issue of maybe putting large amounts of children in that crash zone. So not another cold water thing, but a part of the
The
discussion.
good thing is they quit flying at 5 o'clock out there.
The Air National Guard doesn't, but you're right. So, Mr. Mullen, are we finished? I'm sorry.
yeah, I think, you know, the idea is that we do have, there has been a plan in place. You know, I've been approached by community members saying, you know, you're not doing anything. You said you were going to champion soccer fields for our kids, and you've done nothing. And yet we've not just been vocal, but we've been working on it. So there's a plan in place. You know, we want to let the community know that we're working on that, and it was going to come before us soon, and hopefully it will come to fruition where the community and as a whole will be able to speak on it and see what we're trying to do. I think it'll be very exciting for this community. And I'm excited to see what they're going to bring forward. So that's that item. Maybe on the and I know what we're saying, Councilman Burgess, in a temporary item. Just one thought. I mean, if once we get a cost on a temporary, we could see the amount of money and say, you know, instead of using that money to do a temporary, can we just go ahead and throw the lights on there? Just a thought. That's all. Thank you.
More water. No.
Yeah, no, that's not more
George
water.
is
That's a
getting
good
the fire
idea.
hose right now.
That's it. All right, thank you. That's it.
And on the note of soccer, I want to congratulate AYSO had their regional state games this past weekend up in Palm Beach, and I was up there, and the U10 boys made us proud again. Last year they came in second place. This year they finished in third. This year the U10 girls came in third. Last year they won. But the majority of the girls that were on the U10 last year moved up to U12, and they ended up winning the state region. So they've made us proud again, and hopefully I can have them here next month for recognition like I did last year. Just a couple other quick notes, and then I'll be done. It sounds like the spay-neuter clinic is soon approaching their opening, hopefully next week they're shooting for. Tentatively, they had a couple setbacks with some things, but it looks like next week, from what I've been told yesterday, that perhaps next Thursday they might be ready to do a soft opening with some of the local rescues. And then I just want to remind everybody that this weekend is the fantastic Homestead Rodeo, so everybody please come out and partake of the festivities. It'll be happening starting tomorrow night with the buck off. I signed the mayor up. He's first one on.
I won't
the
be
Bull
on long.
tomorrow night, and after that, Councilman Roth will follow him, followed by Councilman Maldonado for the city team. But anyway, please come on out and enjoy the rodeo. It's a great event that's been going on here for, I believe it's 67 years, and takes you back to the roots of Homestead and the roots of America. So anyway, thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir, thank you. Mr. Roth?
First, I just want to congratulate Councilman Williams on an excellent job throughout the Martin Luther King celebrations, the breakfast, and Selena, our assistant, who helped you tremendously. And I think that guest speaker there gave her plenty of props for her performance in putting that event together. It was well attended. It was a very good event, and I appreciate your efforts and staff's efforts and everybody who was involved in putting that event together for their help. I was privileged to be invited to the Police Explorers graduation this past Saturday. Took place at the Women's Club. And that class graduated, I believe, about 36 cadets into the Explorer program at the city of Homestead. I didn't realize how much time and effort those young kids put into becoming a police explorer, and it takes them approximately a year to graduate from that class of cadets into the Explorer program. I was present. It was a nice event, and I just wanted to congratulate them. Chief Roll, you got some potential officers there for the future. They're a great group of kids. They've always talked about their survival week, and Floor, who works with SOS, really supports that program. I never understood what it was all about, and it takes a lot of time and energy and effort for those kids to get through that survival week that they go through in training. So I just wanted to congratulate them. And I just wanted to add one thing to John's promotional thing of the rodeo. Along with tomorrow night's buck off, which I will not be getting on a mechanical bull. Well, Tony can't get me on one. I don't think you can get me on one either. But we also have Poop Bingo tomorrow night, which is a charity event that the rodeo has put on for several years now. So come on out. There'll be some tickets for that. It supports 3 local charities: Patches PPEC, This is the Dog, and This is for the Kids Inc. And that all starts about 6 o'clock tomorrow night at the rodeo rounds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Williams?
Thank you so much, Mayor. And to all of my esteemed colleagues for their efforts and their support in that breakfast. Goes without saying that your advocacy and your support of that is just tremendous. And I guess, Mayor, when you made your comments about the assignment, let me first thank you for your assignments which you have given me a charge over. And those assignments are the Southwest Advisory Committee, the new elected officials pension board, the South Florida Water Management District, that's very new, and the Green Cities, that's very new for me in that effort, and I appreciate your challenge to broaden our perspectives with these things that affect our cities from the outside that has a tremendous impact. My question to you in the assignments of these committees, the very fabric of what, and it goes way back, I think, prior to when you were as a council person, the intent of Parks and Recs and Finance and those particular segments of given responsibility of having some foreknowledge and issues on as respect to our internal piece. I understand the due direction which you're trying to go in, and I respect that wholeheartedly. I'm just my question is those other committees or assignments or those things are obviously not on this particular council assignments. And I would say perhaps 50% of these are fairly new, some than others. Could you just help me understand those other traditional liaison positions in which we had some kind of, not so much oversight, but perhaps some involvement within the process of such, so that I'm clear as it relates to that?
Yeah, sure, Mr. Williams. I mean, at this particular point, obviously, you know, it's a manager form of government, and we're the legislative, you know, the body, and it was twofold. From the perspective of we are the final say on any given issue that has to pertain to any department in the entire city. So if there's a complaint and it can't, and the manager supposedly doesn't handle it, we're the final sounding board as a body. Again, trying to look at this body as a group, not one person being responsible for any one division or anyone feeling like they have to speak to that individual person. They can address any of us individually on any issue that pertains to anything that comes up in front of, as far as the city operationally is concerned. That was the intent of saying, you know, in essence, any of us can be approached about anything that has to do with any operational aspect of the city, but it doesn't belong to any of us individually. So that was my concept there and my intention there. And secondarily, there was some, you know, in the past, you know, some of the, well, let's take Parks and Rec as the example. A lot of times events that were put on by Parks and Rec ended up being, you know, perceived more like it was one council person over the other council person. And this is a body of council, and we are all responsible for all the functions that go on in the city. Meaning if it's a positive function that comes from utilities, it belongs to this body. If it comes from Parks and Rec, it belongs to this body. And again, this is my concept of trying to look at it that way, and it is a little different. It is a little outside the box. It is more consistent with what the charter says. So that's my intent. Again, I threw it at everyone for this type of discussion. It's not to say that any one of us isn't doing the right thing when it comes to any liaisonship with regards to the city. It's just that I felt like we should, as a body, address those issues as a body. And secondarily, I felt like that if we could focus, if we could take it a little bit outside, because there's so much out there that I feel like we're missing the boat on, because we don't have a lot of the relationships that a lot of the other cities seem to have. So again, it's trying to find each person's niche and let them see if they're comfortable with that. This isn't something that's etched in stone. It's it's a first shot at trying to put everyone in their best position. So I hope that kind of explains my thoughts. And again, if the council members don't agree with this, it's my request to you. Obviously, you can vote against it, and we can start over again. But again, I tried to, that's why I wanted to couch the discussion on the thought process behind looking at it that way. So I hope that answers it, Mr. Williams.
Yes, yeah, well, it does, and I guess, the very fabric of the makeup of those particular liaisons to those particular committees is just that, a committee, not to provide overstep the city manager form of government, because those existed prior to all of us coming, being here as elected officials, that the continuity, the engagement, because of the harmonious community that we have, most of that is as you had, gave an example of with the Parks and Recs, is not, and I agree with you, it's not a one person But if there is, a committee per se, that's what it was called at the time. But then, of course, I just needed to, for you to articulate what your rationale was behind, appointing each of us to these things. I had to be honest with you. I don't know what South Florida Management Water District is that. How would that, it's Coolio, maybe you can explain it. How would I, as a council person, what meetings do they have? Is it open? So I'm trying to find out what the role, responsibility of such, especially identified in such, I guess is what I'm trying to, understand for me as hopefully as a liaison for that.
I can start it off, and Julio can fill in if he need be. What we've had over the years is a flooding situation occurs, and residents are screaming and yelling about this flooding, and there really hasn't been in the past interaction with the elected officials and the decisions that the South Florida Water Management District is making in terms of the way they manage the gates, the way they're restricting our water supply. And so for us personally, and you can take it on or not take it on, but we don't have the personal relationships at the elected official levels with the decision makers at the South Florida Water Management District. And the same applies also to some of these other outside agencies. It's one thing at a staff level, but what we've learned with the county and some of the other agencies is having elected officials interacting with the legislative
right, the relationship
representatives, that relationship. We don't have that right now with a lot of those that you see on the list. And in terms of how you apportion your time and your roles as legislators, I can tell you personally, from time to time, some of these items on the list, we as staff have had difficulty with because staff is staff and legislators are legislators. And I can tell you just on the trip we went to in Houston and other things, having electeds involved has sway. And so there are decisions the South Florida Water Management District makes on a whole host of issues, including water pressure. And
right.
So people ask, why isn't there more water pressure? Why do we have this? Why can't we do that? And so there are people that sit at a dais just like you do who make these decisions, and they don't really get questioned very much. And
so, since I question every item on the agenda, I will be the one to go and question.
Right. I mean, I can tell you in almost 12 years in Florida, I've had one meeting with an actual policymaker at the South Florida Water Management, the district representative who flew in from Tallahassee. But they are very, very removed from the elected officials, and we really only deal with staff. And so, I mean, I think that's some of those items on the list we really could use your help with because we don't have the relationships. And, even at the issue of the fire department, I know the police department deals with them on a regular basis,
right.
But there are people that make decisions about the fire department and how they rescue and what kind of resources they apply. And it would be extremely helpful for us to have that interaction between the policymakers.
Okay. So is there a particular committee with South, or I just attend their meetings and?
We can help you. Each of you have different topics that are very different, and they have different structures. The governing bodies are very structured and different. And then also like the green initiatives, for example, there are the cutting edge cities across this country spend a good amount of time thinking about green initiatives and how cities can get on the bandwagon of protecting the environment. But a lot of that does involve, unfortunately, somebody flying to a conference or sitting at a meeting with
and I was the one again to deal with the Green Cities Initiative.
Well,
okay.
And again, you shouldn't take something that you don't want to deal with or you don't have the time to deal with. But I can tell you, most of these items on the list, we as staff, there's only so much we can do, and your presence would be extremely important in one form or another.
No, I understand. I'm up for the challenge. What I like to have is a defining role. So if, especially with some new items like this, it's very constricted of what the abilities are as it relates to my role. And I want to be as proactive and as engaged as possible to be able to bring those viable solutions to our city. But if I don't know if there's a committee or, the structure of what I'm being assigned to, it's kind of difficult.
Sure. And Mayor, we can help with that. We can draft some, for each of those new items, we can draft some suggestions, and also the structure of those particular areas. Like, for example, South Florida Water Management District, who the policymakers are, how they meet, what they do, and then staff can kind of help guide you on what might be helpful for us, and also what you might be interested in as the elected official.
Right. And I close with this. It's like for instance, the MPO, it's always been said that that's one of the most dysfunctional boards in Dade County because of the large body of it. But the MPA, you know exactly what your defining role is. You know exactly that you're going to make future tense transportation issues and other issues that come, and that you know that there's an organized body in which you can deliberate and participate in conversation. And so that's all I'm trying to figure out is these two items, or liaison responsibilities, are they engaging in that particular format? So I don't know.
Let me say this as well too, Mr. Williams. I agree with you, and we're changing a lot of things, but part of the dynamic is just like you say with MPO. Part of the dynamic is going up there and figuring out how they make decisions and why they make decisions, and learning their operational aspects. So roll that into these requests here. Why does South Florida Water Management not talk to the 5th largest city in Miami-Dade County about issues when they decide to flood our streets?
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that the concept is, the thought is, we can't play the game because we don't know the rules. So if we can ferret out these rules by attending whatever, and that was the intention by having some extra
the allocation,
resource, so that you have the tools now, if you so choose, to dig those issues out.
Well, no, I agree, and that's what I'm going to do. Anything I'm going to sink my teeth in and do a lot, research and all of that. But I just want it from the body of the council to know how far to go, what are my limits, what are my barriers, and so that I understand my office in which you're asking me to serve.
Mayor, if I can add, what we learned from the People's Transportation Plan and the CITT board is, I showed up into a big room with a bunch of people sitting on the dais, and they started handing out the cards. They sit there, they make a lot of decisions, and they were happy to see us, but we didn't really. The only person in the room that had a relationship with them was Wife Sirota. And so the idea is, it would have helped, I think, if I guess the history, if you had the crystal ball, if we had known we were going to be going before them, having cultivated some of them are city employees, some of them are elected officials, or they're appointed by elected officials, and so having that relationship, there's a bunch of decision makers that I think we're going to encounter over time. And certainly at the water management level, it's tough. I mean, this whole item that you voted on tonight with the mitigation, I don't think you have any idea what Julio went through just to get this far. It's been very difficult.
Okay. Thank you so much. And Mayor, I hope this passes so I can get my teeth into this. I'm excited about it.
Thank you.
And I don't have a problem with the allocation amount, especially with this new endeavor in which you're trying to execute.
That's it, sir?
Yes, I think so. I forgot something, but yes. But go ahead, yes.
Mr. Maldonado.
I forgot something.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to piggyback off of our current discussion in regards to this, I'm comfortable with what I have before me, and I've kind of been working in that capacity since I've come on, and extending myself throughout the community, throughout the city, to make relations in order to help our city. And basically, my thought on it is, we need to create channels. We're so down south that the folks don't know us and they forget about us. And so I think, I understand your concept, and I can happily say that I've been working on that, before this concept And I think it's important for all of us to do to establish relationships, outside of Homestead. That's going to help us, like the city manager was saying, in anything that we're trying to do. I mean, this council is very proactive. I'm super excited to work with this council and everyone on here. I know that once we get involved in something, I think we make a dent and a serious impact within our community. So, but maybe going back into some of the other, the question that Councilman Williams was asking in regards to committees, what you're saying is that not one person will be the liaison for instance, I had planning, zoning, or development services as a liaison. It's not just Councilman Maldonado that can deal with it. Larry Roth, if there's an issue, Vice Mayor Faircloth, if there's an issue, they could address it and they could come before the city manager and staff and work on it. I've always taken that approach anyways, and I think it's always been helpful. So I think, so if you want to work on, if anyone wants to work on the parks, for the 4th of July, go see these, get involved. I think that's something that we could all do. I could work with that as long as we understand that we have the ability, but we've always had the ability to come before for the city manager and staff in order to make decisions. So I understand that. So, okay, enough of that. Let's move forward with this. Other than that, this is our first council meeting back. It's Happy New Year, everyone. I've not seen everyone since last year. I'm excited about this year and working with all my colleagues. I think we already started the year with a bang. I think we're going to have some great success in this year. I'm very excited about it. So looking forward to all our endeavors. I wish everyone the best. And let's go out there and do our best for Homestead. I love you guys. That's it. Done.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor.
Ah, that was fast. Councilman Maldonado caught me off guard. Okay, first off, I guess I'll just start off with the committee assignments before I go into my other announcements. When I looked at the assignments, I'm the type that wants to know why and the vision. So when I looked at this, I know there are a lot of new liaison responsibilities. I just want to know the vision. What was the vision behind these new appointments, and what was your vision for our role? What role did you want us to play in this? When I look at Enterprise Florida, I know this is the economic development arm for the state to help diversify the economy and bring in those capital investments. So I can assume what you would like for me to do as it relates to the city of Homestead, but I just kind of wanted an outline for that. And then the rationale for the particular appointments.
As far as the committees are concerned
Yes.
themselves? Well, the charter has 7 identified committees in it. And in previous years, mayors have made other committees. And again, trying to be consistent with the charter, I tried to say, okay, well, we've got 7 to fill, and let's see if we can find a council person that might be able to achieve that by filling that role. Obviously, you have 2 committees
Yes.
because you've been magnificent chair of both of those.
I have
So
the
that-
most.
But that was really the intent of the whole thing, was to try to roll it back into consistency with the charter. And again, these are out of the charter. I think we used to call it beautification. Now it's in the charter as a community image or something like that. But really, that's the intent. And as far as say Enterprise Florida, the example is Bill Johnson left Port of Miami to go to be he's in charge of all of Enterprise Florida. He knows us, but he's up there. And again, I think we talked about the squeaky wheel. They're not going to be even looking our way unless we find some sort of mechanism to reach out, or if there's any way that we could reach out. Again, it's a concept and it's a theory. I'm not sure that it's going to work, but each one of you do a fabulous job of whatever you tackle. This is my guess as to what may fit in your comfort zone, so to speak. But we shouldn't not be communicating with Enterprise Florida. We should not be communicating with Miami-Dade Fire. And again, it was trying to form some sort of point of contact or some sort of relationship, someone that at least can reach out. And again, that's the intention. That's the, that was the concept here.
Okay, I was just thinking, there's an ordinance for the CRA not-for-profit grants that was voted and ratified under Councilwoman Lobos, in that there was supposed to be an independent body to decide how the CRA grants would be allocated, and there would be a liaison from council to help facilitate that process, but I don't see it on here. Are we moving away from that?
I wasn't aware of that. I'd have to get the attorney to look at that. If that's a situation that is written in an ordinance, obviously we would just have to backfill that in.
And Mayor, whether it is or it isn't, we would prefer that because that's been very helpful, having that somebody there to run some interference.
I'm not asking for it again.
We'll just
But
add
I'm
that
just
to the vice
saying,
mayor's
with the
list.
ordinance, I just want to know where we're amending that.
No, ma'am. Obviously, if we were, we would have to be in front of the body. Again, it was just, possible oversight on my part for not realizing that ordinance existed.
Okay, as far as the board appointments, is there a particular timeline? Because I know after every election, then everyone is up for reappointment on our city boards. So are we going to move quickly with that so that we can continue the work that we're doing with our particular boards?
Mr. Williams just brought that up earlier because he's got some vacancies. I have some on the MPO. I think all of us have, issues and vacancies. I think.
Well, they're all vacant because they have to be reappointed.
Oh, the entire board?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
When the mayor's up for reelection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys want to advertise through the clerk's office, or do you have your own list of appointments? Because I have the same problem with MPO.
Well, I asked them to reapply.
Yeah.
Everyone reapplies.
That's kind of what I thought too. But
Right.
like in the planning and zoning board, I know there's one vacancy that we need to, advertise for. And then I have 4 positions on the MPO advisory panels that I need to fill. And again, I'd like to advertise those, and everybody knows, there's citizens advisory, freight advisory. So yes, we need to do all that.
Is there a particular time? Because when I meet with my boards, I want to be able to give them a deadline and to push that information out there. If they're interested in serving on one of the boards, I would request that they submit their intent to me by a time certain so that I can forward that to you.
I would totally agree, and whatever your recommendation is will certainly be approved. So the time frame is as quickly as each one of your committees can be. You can reconvene your committees.
Okay, that's a little open-ended, and I know how some of us
We say
work.
You want to do it in February? That's fine.
February, yes.
If-
We have to keep moving with that. Okay, that is all I have for that. Councilman Williams, congratulations on another successful MLK Community Breakfast. I look forward to that every year, and I thank you for the hard work that you put into that community event. I'm sure the community will echo my sentiments to you and the great work you've done with that. There will be an Education Committee meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m. in the City Manager's Conference Room. I'm inviting anyone out who's interested in hearing our plans for the next couple of months as it relates to education. Please join us at 5 p.m. At 6 p.m., I will be hosting a meeting with the Haitian community in the City Manager's Conference Room, if there's anyone interested in attending that. After that, there's a Whalers concert at the Seminole Theater at 8 p.m. So we're inviting the community to participate in that. There are a couple seats left. I will be attending tomorrow, full day for me. I would love to see the community out and supporting our Seminole Theater. I have a question for the city manager as it relates to the monument signs. Who maintained those signs? Which department?
The monument signs on US 1? That's the one you're asking about, US 1,
The
Campbell
one
Drive?
on Campbell, the one on Speedway Boulevard.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They are very unsightly. Welcome to our city.
Okay.
So they can use a great pressure cleaning.
Yes, ma'am. We'll go have my staff look at it and see, try to get that done for you.
And my next question, has someone followed up with the resident as it relates to the J.D. Red Park and the maintenance of that park?
Yes, we'll be sending out the email to answer his questions and concerns.
Okay, but
And
we're
we'll
going to move forward.
We'll CC all the
Okay.
council that were on it.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to echo sentiments. Mr. Williams, a great job, Martin Luther King breakfast, and great attendance. I felt bad. I wasn't able to attend the parade. I had a death in the family. I had to leave to go to Tampa that day for a 3 o'clock funeral, and I'm sure the parade was a huge success as well, as it always is. I don't really want to go on too much longer because there's really not much worth saying. So if nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Williams? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, we should do. Is there a motion to approve the concept on the table for the council appointments?
I move it, Mayor.
Moving and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all very much for working with me on the concepts. Motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Second? All in favor?
Please swear him in.
We gotta go to work.